Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elizabeth Goldstein, MAS President, to the stage.
Thank you, and welcome to the Municipal Art Society of New York's Celebrating the City Awards evening. Our host this evening, El Museo del Barrio, received an honorary mention at the MASTERWORKS event in 2012 for the reconfiguration of their Fifth Avenue courtyard, which we'll be enjoying a little bit later. Tonight, we honor the projects that create the civic spirit of New York and leverage the power of art, architecture, and activism for the betterment of the city. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank some very special people who are in the audience. First of all, my incredible board members and my staff who've done an amazing job at pulling this evening together. Please help me thank them. I also want to thank our incredible jurors on all of the awards who helped select this year's honorees. We're delighted to have your assistance in this important endeavor. We're delighted to gather in this beautiful theater, which holds special meaning for MAS. The murals you see on the walls, although maybe not quite at the moment, around you depict beloved fairy tales. They are the relics from this room's past life as a children's theater. When El Museo del Barrio took over this building in the late 1980s, it had changed hands several times and had been vacant for years. These once vibrant murals had been marred with a heavy layer of dirt and grime, and their canvases were torn and peeling away from the plaster walls. With a generous grant from the Heckscher Children's Foundation in 1998, MAS Adopt a Mural program was able to rescue these dazzling works of public art. Some of the more severely detached murals had to be removed in order to clean the reverse of the canvas and prepare a healthy wall underneath. In other panels, the torn canvas had to be repaired. All of the murals were carefully cleaned, extensive paint losses were inpainted, and a light varnish was applied to protect them from similar damage. Since 1987, MAS's Adopt a Monument and Adopt a Mural program have raised nearly $4 million to conserve 51 works of public art in all the boroughs. Next month, we'll be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Adopt a Monument program with the rededication of our latest project, the Henry Ward Beecher Monument in Cadman Plaza. I hope you will join us for an event there on June 22nd. It is now my honor to introduce our first presenter, Ryan Whalen, who will present the 2017 WANGARI MAATHAI Award to two New York high school students working to build a resilient future for our city. Please help me welcome Ryan.
Good evening. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you to El Museo del Barrio for hosting us in this wonderful theater, and to all of you for coming out this evening to celebrate the art and activism that is so integral to New York City life. As some of you know, Dr. WANGARI MAATHAI was a noted and incredibly important environmental leader. She is very famous for founding the Greenbelt movement in her native Kenya, and the profound impacts that she had both in her home country, in the region, and really throughout the world led to her in 2004 being named the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And for the Rockefeller Foundation, Dr. MAATHAI was an incredible partner to us in so much of our work. We have a long history working in Africa on issues of sustainability and food security and environmental concerns, and she was such an inspiration and partner to our teams. And the idea that there could be an award that would bring the lessons and example of Dr. MAATHAI to our home base here in New York City, where we've been since we started operating 104 years ago, was incredibly important for us. I'd like to thank the Bette Midler Family Trust, the New York Restoration Project, the Greenbelt Movement, and the City of New York for your incredible partnership throughout the process of reviewing applications and serving on the jury. I think I can speak for all of my fellow jurors to say that reading these applications has been inspiring and encouraging to think about the future generation of leadership here in our city. Lastly, to the Municipal Art Society, you've been around actually longer than we have, and you've been such a partner along the way for so many years. And so thank you for your help and support in really being the home for this award. The WANGARI MAATHAI Award for Civic Participation and Sustainability is given to 2 New York City public school high school seniors each year who demonstrate commitment to and activity in sustainability and environmental issues. Each awardee receives a $10,000 cash prize to recognize their hard work and commitment. And so this year, our first recipient is Nadia Filanovsky, and she is a soon-to-be graduate of Stuyvesant High School, and for her winning project, Nadia sought to address the lack of green space in East New York. And so she spearheaded the successful revitalization of a community garden. And she took initiative on every aspect of the project, from site selection to managing community outreach and fundraising, a collection of activities that I think everyone in this room knows and understands the significance of. The impact that she's had in the community is lasting and very evident. The community garden has already become something of a local gem and has incredibly high use and is prized by local residents. And I'll quote her project supervisor, who said that Nadia's passion for sustainability and for improving the relationship between people and nature in New York City is infectious. Nadia will be attending the University of Southern California after a gap year in Germany. Please join me in congratulating Nadia and welcoming her to the stage. This year's second MAATHAI honoree is Daisy Codallos-Silva, who's a senior at Maspeth High School. Daisy was concerned about the amount of trash that was littering her neighborhood, and she felt it was her civic duty to address this persistent problem. In response, she joined the Maspeth High School Green Club, and in a sign of her burgeoning leadership, became the club's president. At first, she focused on beautifying Maspeth streets, but under her leadership, the group's work soon expanded to include other boroughs. And in partnering with community-based organizations throughout the city, Daisy successfully managed beach cleanups, graffiti removals, recycling fairs, and tree plantings to promote the importance of community service and sustainability citywide. And her high school advisor noted that in Daisy's tenure at the Maspeth High School Green Club, quote, the group has established itself as a leader among New York City environmental organizations. And today is an incredible occasion to recognize her contribution and efforts as an environmental steward. And this fall, Daisy will be starting school at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry to continue her incredible work in the environment. With that, Daisy, please come to the stage.
Congratulations, Nadia and Daisy. We know that this is only the beginning and that you're off to change our worlds into the future and make incredible contributions to New York and to New Yorkers, and we wish you all the best as you're headed off to college. Next, we will honor a team of designers and architects whose work best enriched our urban landscape in 2016. From rolling hillsides to decommissioned shipyards, the projects honored this year have created new venues for New Yorkers to work, play, and interact with the city. I am delighted to welcome two of our 2017 jury members, Justin Garrett Moore and Karen Wong, to present this year's Masterwork honorees.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth. We're delighted to begin with this year's Masterworks Award for Best Restoration, which goes to the Montauk Club. Considered one of New York's most beautiful works of terracotta, the Venetian Gothic Montauk Club has undergone a thoughtful and measured restoration from stoop to roof. The team, Levee architects, successfully repaired decades of damage to the 1891 structure. Unsafe masonry conditions were removed, waterproofing issues corrected, the existing terracotta and stone were repaired and replaced in kind, and the original bricks were cleaned, repointed, and reused with the largest possible extent. The result is a finished product that honors the intricacy and artistry of the building itself while securing it for generations to come. Please welcome Barbara Ronska-Kusi from Levee Architects to accept the 2017 Masterworks Award on behalf of the Montauk Club team.
Next up is the Masterworks Award for Best Adaptive Reuse, which goes to ADO, a project that transformed a nondescript one-story building brick box into something quite amazing. It is personally my new old favorite building in New York City. Occupying a former Greenpoint warehouse, this innovative project is grounded in the principles of remix. The space is designed to encourage the cross-pollination of creative ideas with exhibition spaces, fabrication facilities, retail, and dining, all connected and yet with distinct zones of activity. Contrast and collaboration inspired the exterior plan as well, which maintains the original warehouse building in certain areas and injects new materials in others. The centerpiece of the design is a large overhead periscope that joins the Brooklyn and Manhattan skylines into one single horizon, visually and metaphorically bringing the city together into one space. Please join me in welcoming my new friend, Eric Bungay, to accept the award on behalf of N Architects.
Award for Best Neighborhood Catalyst, which goes to New Lab. Once a monument to ship manufacturing, Building 128 of Brooklyn's famed Navy Yard has undergone a stunning transformation into a hub for entrepreneurship, innovation, and education. The former hangar has been preserved and reborn as a center for green research and manufacturing. It is now home to a community of hardware-centric designers, engineers, and entrepreneurs working for more than 70 emerging companies. By bringing innovation and jobs and events to the former shipyard, New Lab has helped recapture the energy and activity of this once bustling pocket of the city. It is a tribute to and a reinvention of Brooklyn's industrial history. Please welcome David Belt of Macro C, who will accept the award on behalf of the New Lab team.
I'm pleased to present our next award to the New York Public Library's 53rd Street branch, our 2017 Best New Urban Amenity. In the midst of one of New York's most dense commercial neighborhoods, this 28,000 square foot branch library serves as a welcoming public space and a touchstone for neighbors and visitors alike. I was just only there this weekend, and it is just such a refreshing oasis. Although it exists mostly below grade, its innovative spatial design has created an open, light-filled, and modern civic environment. Its relationship to the street serves as an invitation. The clear glass facade showcases the library's grand steps, which serves as a hall for exchange and interaction. Inside, the branch's diverse public programming and resources are arranged in an adaptable, open plan that integrates books, art, and technology. In the words of Risa Honing, the library's vice president for capital planning and construction, the 53rd Street branch is a great place to be alone together. Please welcome Risa as well as Andrea Steele from 10 Arquitectos to accept the award.
Up next is our 2017 MASTERWORKS Award for Best New Infrastructure, which goes to the Public Safety Answering Center 2, project which proves that even a hulking fortress can be elegant. Infrastructure is so key right now, right? Riding along the Hutchinson River Parkway and Pelham Parkway in the Bronx, it is impossible to miss the city's new 911 center. The rigid shape and minimal windows are a necessity for the building's role as New York's last line of communication in the event of an emergency. But the serrated facade, sculptured glass surrounding, and interior green wall elevate our expectations for what utilitarian infrastructure can be. The center is sophisticated, attentive to detail, and spectacular, and most importantly, a workplace worthy of the emergency service operators who help protect our city. In the words of one of our jurors, everyone deserves a little SOM. Please welcome Ross Goldworthy of Skidmore, Owings & Merrill to accept the award on behalf of the team.
Our 2017 MASTERWORKS Award for Best Urban Landscape goes to The Hills, Governor's Island, Phase 2. That kind of sounds like a Netflix series, but these 10 acres of sculpted topography animate Governor's Island and elevate, literally, its 360-degree view of the New York Harbor. Rising 70 feet above sea level, the hills are home to 54 native plant species, more than 2,000 new trees, a permanent art installation, and New York's longest slide. They created a new and immediately iconic destination that addresses resilience, planning, and fun in equal measures. The opening of the hills was a thrilling moment in the long, long journey of Governor's Island, from a restricted military base to a celebrated public amenity. Please welcome Daniel Fassini of West 8 Urban Design to accept the award on behalf of the Hills team.
And finally, it is my honor to present the MASTERWORKS Award for Best New Building, which goes to the Roy and Diana Vagelos Center. The Vagelos Center is a cutting-edge medical school facility, was designed to foster interaction for every dimension. The building and its landscapes provide a bridge to the Washington Heights community, and its luminous sculptural south facade creates an orienting landmark for the campus. The design reflects and promotes prevailing 21st century theory as to how medicine should be taught, learned, and practiced. Its tower anchors Columbia's medical school buildings and serves as a beacon in the neighborhood. Its spaces encourage students to congregate and to work together. The center's design rethinks the conventional typology of high-rise buildings by integrating social and academic spaces within one another. The result is a playful and welcoming education complex that inspires collaboration and interaction. Please welcome Elizabeth Diller and Ricardo Scafidio to accept the award.
Congratulations to all of the MasterWorks winners, and thank you for enhancing New York one design at a time. Now it is my honor to introduce John Hayworth, Chair of the 2017 Brendan GILL Jury, and Cassim Shepard, Jury Member, to present the GILL Prize.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Once a year, the Municipal Arts Society calls upon the arts community to pay tribute to Brendan GILL, the longtime New Yorker theater and architecture critic, author, former MAS president, and champion preservationist. A man of extraordinary intelligence and a keen wit, Brendan graced MAS and the city with his remarkable talents until his death in 1998. In recognition of his magnificent contributions to New York's cultural life, the Brendan GILL Prize was established in his honor in 1987 by fellow MAS board members Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, Helen Tucker, and Margot Wellington. For the last 28 years, an endowed cash prize has been given annually to a single artist or group of artists who create a book, a poem, musical composition, choreographic work, play, film, sculpture, building, or landscape design in the previous year, which best captures the energy and vigor of New York City. The prize is intended to celebrate exceptional enrichments to the life of the city and equally to encourage others in similar pursuits. Through the Brendan GILL Prize, the MAS wants to ensure that New York remains a home for artists and a source of inspiration. Taking a special place alongside this esteemed list of past dreamers and creators are two works of art that we celebrate tonight. Together, they reflect the constellation of perspectives and experiences that gives New York its sense of variety and wonder. The Brendan GILL jury, composed of 8 civic-minded New Yorkers representing the arts and literary communities, selected the awardees from nominations submitted to the MAS. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge my valued fellow jurors. Cassim Shepard, of course, co-presenting tonight, Randall Borshite, Patricia Cruz, Lori Beckelman, Gail Gregg, Suketa Mehta, and Helen Tucker. Joining me to present our first GILL honoree this evening is my fellow juror, Cassim Shepard, author, filmmaker, and the founding editor of Urban Omnibus, a publication of the Architectural League.
Our first honorees, Rebecca Solnit and Joshua Jelly-Shapiro, are co-creators of the book Nonstop Metropolis, a New York City Atlas, which presents thought-provoking essays and iconic evocative maps that bring into focus the social history, cultural identity, and neighborhood landmarks that form the tapestry of New York's 5 boroughs. By giving voice to a diverse host of collaborators across the 5 boroughs, the book reflects the resilience of our urban communities and creates a beautifully varied portrait of our urban landscape. Unfortunately, Rebecca could not be with us today, as her teaching schedule did not permit her to travel to New York. So before welcoming Joshua to the stage to accept this award, we have some brief video remarks from Rebecca.
I'm Rebecca Solnit. I'm in San Francisco, unable to be in New York, but so grateful for this award. Grateful Joshua Jelly-Shapiro's accepting it. Grateful too to our designer Leah Chandra, our chief cartographer Molly Roy, and our wonderful editor-at-large from the Bronx, Garnett Cadigan. And I wanted to just read you a little bit from the Atlas and thank you as many times as I can fit into this video. As Joshua Jelly-Shapiro said one day, every map is a story, and by implication, every story contains a map. I loved maps for a long time, but it wasn't until I made them and put them out into the world that I discovered how not alone I was. People love maps. There's a special incandescent joy to how they respond to a good map that is different than the way I've seen people respond to any other art form. They light up, they get greedily engrossed, they start tracing possibilities. By a good map, I mean an aesthetic one, a map that's an invitation to the imagination, a map that offers a fresh view of the familiar or an introduction to the unfamiliar, or finds the latter in the former. If every map is a story, most of them are mysteries that invite you to solve them while remaining forever unresolved, in that they indicate more past, more future, more adventure, more travelers. They have an openness indicating more than they depict. There are 8 million stories of the naked city. This has been one of them, declares the famous voiceover for the 1948 documentary-style feature film, The Naked City. It's an unusual film because it digresses intentionally to try and evoke the coexistence of many stories in the same place, weaving and tangling and overlapping and undermining each other. A narrative is one of those stories. A map can trace one story, but it often portrays the coexistence of many stories in relationship to each other. It can show how the physical, economic, visual, and social landscape can shape those stories, letting some bloom, grinding out others. Multiple stories in spatial relation become the geosocial constellations of our lives. The 70 maps in this Atlas trilogy are maps about relationship, about which species thrive, about how two phenomena inflect each other, about the registers of change, of what remains invisible in the cities that people think they know. And so, thank you, New York City. Thank you, Municipal Art Society. Thank you to our dozens of Atlas collaborators for helping us make this book, and thank you all for coming.
The maps and essays in this incredible volume touch on everything from the power of capital to the role of resistance in shaping New York, from climate change to immigrant enclaves, from playgrounds to oysters, reflecting on faith, family, language, music, those varied aspects of urban identity increasingly overlooked in our rush to quantify and measure the dynamics of urban life. This book strikes me as an act of resistance against those homogenizing forces, as well as a lasting work of art that I know I will continue to treasure forever. Please help me in welcoming Joshua Jelly-Shapiro to the stage to accept a 2017 Brendan Gill Prize for Nonstop Metropolis.
Wow, that was something. In Matthew Levee Chavez's imaginative conception, Subway Therapy, the jury recognized the originality and the profound sense of community that this public-spirited art project fostered among New Yorkers. In a moment of apprehension and uncertainty following the 2016 presidential election, commuters were invited to post personal reactions on the walls of the 14th Street, 6th Avenue, and Union Square subway stations using sticky notes, forming a collective experience. The simplicity of this 5-week art installation was both provocative and moving. Such vision and spontaneity reflects the values of the namesake of this prize, Brendan Gill himself. And we are all thrilled that part of this collection will be preserved and displayed at the New York Historical Society for future generations to discover. Please help me in welcoming Matthew Levee Chavez to the stage to accept the 2017 Brendan Gill Prize for his work, Subway Therapy. Thank you. And for the next portion of tonight's programs, we're pleased to have with us another fellow juror, Gill juror, and executive director of Harlem Stages, Patricia Cruz, who will join tonight's 2 honorees in a conversation about their remarkable works and the inspiration behind them. Please join me in welcoming Patricia Cruz to the stage. Thank you.
This is a real pleasure and a joy. And I just want to say how enthusiastic I was to know that the two winners are the projects for which I was the most enthusiastic. So I wanted to say that first. I'm not going to do a long introduction of either of these guys because it's my hope that you can Google them. But I do want to say that as a geographer and a writer, I was enchanted and a little bit frightened, I have to say, by the works that were included in the Nonstop Metropolis. And frightened because I think it describes both our hopeful past, sometimes our nostalgic past, but also leads the way to look at what the future might be. And I think that in a sanctuary city that we live in together, that we have to be cognizant of the threats that are imminent and our need to respond both in art and in action. And these guys are artist activists. So that's Josh Jelly-Shapiro. And Matthew Levee has been Chavez, yes? Has been a kind of instant rock star, I think, coming in with this really simple idea that is not simple at all, and that is inclusive, and that I think, for me certainly, celebrates an idea of democracy in a way that invites people to participate. And as he hasn't defined who he really is, so he didn't tell me that part. So I do know that he's from the garlic capital of America, and vampires beware. Don't get near this guy. But I would describe him as an artist, activist, therapist. And he is here to help us. And the other thing about them is, and I think that that's what's so exciting for me, is that they bring a fresh eye to who we are. Those of us who consider ourselves veteran New Yorkers, and I can say that even though I'm from Chicago. But I've been here for most of my adult life. And 4 years for Josh, and 1.5 for Matthew. So they've come in and kind of scoped us out, told us who we are, and we are better for it. So I want to thank them and congratulate them on the award. And I've got a couple of questions. And one, because this is a short time and you all will get to go out and eat and drink, which is why we're all really here anyway. But to celebrate these wonderful people. But I think that I want to ask one question because I think it's something that all artists have to confront and to recognize in their own work. So I'm going to ask the question that has to do with looking at these as works of art. What is the thing, the one thing that you are most proud of, each of you? So go first, because you're next to me.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Pat. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you to the Municipal Arts Society on behalf of everyone who worked on this atlas. Those of you who know the book, you look at the title page of it, and there's dozens of names. It looks more like a film production than a book, so there's a lot of people, but I won't mention them all. But thank you also to El Museo del Barrio. This must be the most beautiful theater in the city. It's astonishing now. So great to be here. I think the way to answer that question about what we're proud of with this book, I think goes back to some of the things you heard Rebecca speak about what we were trying to do with it. And I think there are a number of ideas that animate this project. One is that people are stories, not data. Another is that any city could be mapped in a different way by all of its inhabitants. The other one is to insist on cities as spaces of radical coexistence. as places which contain innumerable voices. And I think it's a particular pleasure for us to receive this award with Matthew here, because I think his work speaks to that theme as well so potently. Rebecca and I were just thrilled to hear that. So I think that what we're most proud of in the book is that it was very important to us. It only contains 26 maps. It doesn't contain 8 million. But we were determined, right, to have it in some ways model the city that we cared to celebrate, and that we feel it's our duty as citizens to celebrate. And that's a city that creates space and is home to all of its people. And so I think that if you look at that table of contents, right, it contains voices and names that represent the groups of this city, a city which it's important to say again and again is comprised of a population that's 2/3 either immigrants or the kids of immigrants. It's also a place that's majority women. And so the ways in which we've tried to create an atlas that exemplifies those things about this city that we love is something we're proud of, for sure.
Great. And one more comment. I think that you must get a copy of it. It's out front. And I think that a part of it, it's like a book of poetry, and you can open it anywhere or use the index to find the thing that you're most interested in, and then you just get pulled in, and it's a fabulous experience. So with that, Matthew, talk to us about perhaps not what was the most important thing that you found, but what was one of the most surprising things that happened as you were doing subway therapy?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for inviting me to be here, everyone. That was a part of having me here for the Brendan Gill Prize. When I found out, it was very out of the blue and so wonderful that people were so interested. Before I get on to talking about my favorite moment, I want to talk about what I was really proud of. And that's part of that answer is that I started this work because I wanted to be there for people who didn't really have anyone else. And I'm so lucky to have my family and friends, and many of them are here. So thank you for being here for me. And what I was the most proud of in the time after the election is that other people were there for each other. And the people of New York took on a responsibility to write what they felt, but also overwhelmingly wrote about supporting each other, about New York being a safe place for people to live in a very divided and tumultuous climate. Individuals in New York were there for each other. And physically at the wall, people were hugging each other and supporting each other. People were crying, and that was the thing I was the most proud of for the project. And I think the most interesting moment as well was me sitting there and needing to step away from my office, which is a table and 2 chairs with some wall art and a fake diploma. And I had to walk away because people were so eager to get whatever they had off of their chest that I didn't have to facilitate it, and that was a wonderful moment to, as well as like it was kind of like a frenzy, and that was a fascinating moment, and it was really wonderful.
Great. Another question for both of you. I think most artists and anybody who's made an object or had a thought or written a book thinks after that, oh, damn, if I had just done this, or I just missed this, or I should have included that. Can you talk about, was there any sense of that for you, Josh?
Yes, well, you're asking for deep, dark secrets, right? No, there's, I think absolutely there are regrets always in a project like this. In our project, there's so many moving pieces, too, that there are inevitably things that you wish you could have done and couldn't. Of course, we brainstormed a million maps. You know, one map, for example, I would have loved to do, but we couldn't quite figure out how to do, was a map of silences, for example. We thought it was a wonderful thing to think about how do you chart silence in the city? We couldn't figure out a good way to do it, so we didn't do it. I hope the other maps are up to it. But it's also you approach people you admire. One of the joys of this project was just getting to commission work from people we love. And so there are people you don't get, but then there are people you do. You go for Patti Smith, and she was busy, so we got RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan, and that's not a bad thing. So we're pleased with how it works out. Serendipity is, of course, part of the process always.
Absolutely. And for you, Matthew, a thing that you thought, oh, if I'd only done this one other thing, what would it have been?
So we talked on the phone, and I thought a lot about this question, and to be honest, I don't really think that there's anything when I look back on the experience that I would have liked to have done. And part of the reason for that is that the way I structured the project it was not really mine to take ownership of because of the vision. And there were so many things that came out of subway therapy that I never could have imagined. And because I didn't have a conceptualization of what it would look like as an end product, I was completely immersed in the process, and I loved that experience. And looking back, there's only a few things that were, it would have been nice if National Geographic had mentioned the subway therapy was in existence in the photo that they posted, because maybe I'd have 20,000 followers on Instagram. But I don't really think that that's not why I did it, and therefore it's not a big, I don't really care. And there were so many, like somebody made a subway therapy blanket, where they're all cloth notes and people could write in and contribute, and there was a cocktail that was made, and there was lots of appropriations in a lot of different ways. And I think some people think, oh, I wish that it wouldn't have gotten taken in that direction, or I wish that the people would have painted me in a different light, and I just let it be what it wanted to be, and I think it was really beautiful that way.
That's wonderful.
I have a question for you. Is that the suit you wore every day you were out there? Is that the suit?
It is. So
it's an elegant suit.
Well, thank you very much. Part of my uniform is a brown suit, a tie, a table and 2 chairs, a diploma, and every good therapist's office needs wall art, so.
You can put your prize up in the subway now too.
I could.
Be good.
I was wondering. I didn't know if we'd get one of the big ones or a smaller one. I'm glad that it's the size that it is, so I can put it up in the office in the subway.
And since we're talking about attire, do you want to talk about your T-shirt, sir?
Sure. I'm very happy to talk about my T-shirt. It was a plant. I actually already mentioned the fellow that's on my T-shirt. This is RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan. And yes, he deserves applause always. But the story here, and Peach, if Peach is still here, one of our marvelous artists on the Atlas, every one of these maps, right, there's 26 maps, the majority of them we commissioned work from a visual artist to adorn these maps, to help tell the story that we want them to tell. And so this is a T-shirt that pertains to one of our maps of Staten Island. We were determined from the start to have this atlas not be just a Manhattan and a bit of Brooklyn atlas. It needed to be all 5 boroughs. It needed to celebrate all 5 boroughs. And so one of our big, our Staten Island maps is a map called The Mysterious Land of Shaolin, which for those of you who know the music of the Wu-Tang Clan, this is what they call Shaolin after a kung fu film that they were very into. But we had a friend, Garnet Cadigan, who's this wonderful Jamaican walker and writer who walked around the whole city for us, and he had a friend called Peach Dao. And he said, Peach is from China. She doesn't know the Wu-Tang Clan, but she's an incredible woodcut artist and engraver, and I think she's going to be into this project. And a few weeks later, she'd listened to and I think memorized every bit of music they'd ever done, and did these wonderful pieces of art for us. For this map, which essentially represents Staten Island as Shaolin, as it exists in the kind of imagination of the Wu-Tang Clan. But then alongside the geography of the Chinese community in Staten Island, which is extant and thriving. And there is, for example, an actual Shaolin temple in what the Wu-Tang Clan calls Shaolin. So those kinds of juxtapositions, of course, are things we're very interested in. But here's to Peach Dao and her marvelous work, along with all our other artists.
And I should say thank you for that, because I do think that the other element of the book and of the atlas is the artwork in it. So you've gathered together both artists, visual artists, and writers. And I think both of you have talked about one of the joys of doing your projects is this idea of telling other people's stories. And I think that that is an incredible thought. So what I would like to ask as the final question, different for both of you, please. For you, Josh, the whole idea of editing all of these works, you and Rebecca together, and also writing for it, and quite beautifully, I have to say, is that how do you choose? The question, how do you edit a project that has so many voices and so many places and so many sensibilities?
Yes, well, thank you. No, I mean, that's the sort of job of editing, right, is to, you get this mass of wonderful stuff. And of course, I sort of envy the Post-its in a sense. You get to just, here's all this incredible stuff, and it's fabulous. I wonder what the Historical Society is going to do to choose.
I had to filter it through into the book. And
yeah, exactly. But no, our task, and I think the way that I would answer that, because it applies equally to the book and each map. That Rebecca and I both work as writers, which is to say that we write essays, we craft narratives. And anyone who's done that knows that the key to crafting a good argument, telling a good story, is often leaving information out. It's including the things that you need to tell the story effectively and potently and well. And it's the same thing with a good map, that you know, we have all this marvelous technology now where you can just dump all this data on a map and it'll show you, here's everything, you know. But it's often the case that those don't necessarily tell good stories. And so our job was really just to think about how can we choose the examples that tell the stories well.
Right.
And that's essentially what we endeavored to do.
Yeah, that's incredible. And you've done a great job. Thank you so much. And Matthew, talk a little bit, if you will, about the future. I know we've heard about it, some of the works going to the Museum for the City of New York, which is right next door. But also the future, because you've got a book coming out that contains this. So talk to me about what you see the next steps for this project.
Yes, it's interesting to listen to a conversation about curation and editing, because for me, you know, how do I curate these objects? I almost feel like each one is so meaningful to me and to other people that how do I choose what to show people or put on Instagram or put on in a book form? But the New York Historical Society was so wonderful, and they helped collect a sample. So they have about 3,000 or 4,000. There are other institutions that may be acquiring some of the notes soon. If you're part of an institution that might want some notes, I have about 20,000 in my apartment. And I really would love to show them to people. The book that's coming out is a collection of those notes, and that's out on October 24th, and I'm so excited to share a piece of the project that people can take home with them, because it was so inspirational for so many, and especially for me. And a lot of people said, can you make a book out of this, please? I want to have this on my coffee table. And so I'm really excited to give that to people. There's a second book in the works about creativity, and it's going to be for young people to feel inspired and like they're an active part of our community, because when I first got to New York, I was an art teacher in Canarsie, and it was so difficult to see a group of students that was so unlikely to feel valued. And they would get discouraged so quickly before they could ever do anything. And so I want to encourage young people to think that you as one person can make a difference. It's one of the reasons I don't say I'm an artist all the time, even though it's what I am. If I lead off with it, it creates a divide between me and other people, and I don't think that belongs there. I think anybody can benefit their community. So I do lots of fun things. I still do projects with sticky notes locally and internationally. I was just in Brussels doing a project for the International Day of Happiness, as well as the anniversary for the terrorist attacks that happened a year and a little bit ago. And I do a live show every day where I give free advice to people on the internet. I'm developing the next thing, which I think is Ask Levee. So if people have questions or they're curious or need advice, they can ask Levee. And there's all sorts of really fun things. I would love to find interesting and creative ways to overcome some of the issues that we have in the world. And we live in a very divided environment, and so I'm going to keep working on different things I can do to get people excited and to help people to connect to each other. If anyone is curious about any information about the project, you can go to subwaytherapy.com. There's my
And I should just say, I think I said this already, but when Rebecca and I found out that we were sharing this award with you, it resonated in such a keen way. Because, as I say, the idea and the ideal of this atlas is absolutely about making space for voices and insisting on this city as refuge, as sanctuary, that's our joy and our duty in this place. And I think it's important to say that because those ideas are menaced in all kinds of ways right now. So
yeah,
thank you for your work.
You bet.
Thank you both for your work. And I just want everybody to know that you might want to save money on your therapist and just see,
it's free.
Check into his office.
Not necessarily good, but it is free.
He looks the part anyway, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The glasses, the tie. Just to say thank you to both of you. I haven't seen someone come up with the time that's supposed to tell me how many minutes. None. Okay. I got that cutoff moment. So again, to thank the Municipal Art Society, to thank El Museo for hosting this event, and to thank you all as interested, crazy New Yorkers who come out, engage with one another, and are both enlightened and, for some of us, really excited about the opportunity to share ideas with anybody at any time. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you guys, and congratulations again.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
We're honored before today to be joined by Brendan Gill's daughter, Kate. So please help me welcome Kate Gill for a few words on the man whose legacy inspired this award.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. What an honor, what a great honor, really, terrific. I can't believe I'm able to stand here, and I am, so thank you. I want to imitate the winners who said nothing, and then those that said so many wonderful things. I can't do either. I can only thank you on behalf of my family, Madeleine and David and all my family out there, and Gatesy, who's not here. He's sorry that he can't be here, my brother Michael Gates, and Rebecca Solnit and Joshua and Matthew. Terrific. Thank you, the gorgeous jury. And when I come to the Municipal Art Society, my heart rejoices because truly Dad is here. Everyone remembers him and his spirit and his words, and all his leadership continues to inspire me, thanks to all of you. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you all for joining us this evening. We hope that you found these works of art, architecture, and activism we celebrated tonight inspiring. New York's edge and energy is drawn out of the spirit of creativity and the drive for excellence. It inspires all of us to persevere against the city's hardships and the world's hardships, to strive for the best New York City can be. As MAS prepares to mark its 125th anniversary next year, we are committed as ever to our mission of educating and inspiring New Yorkers to engage in the betterment of our city. We hope that you will continue to join us in this important work. Thank you so much for coming.